Welcome back, everybody, to the 10,000 Heroes show, where, like it or not, you are one of the heroes. And I'm delighted to tell you that after a couple of years of really hard work, the show is finally taken off. And that's because of your listening week after week and telling your friends. So thank you. Thank you. And what we're doing here is piecing together a holistic approach to life that leaves nothing on the sidelines, that privileges healing and wisdom and meaning, purpose, and money, and relationships and vocation and all of it. That's what I'm doing, and that's what you're doing by listening, by being here, by participating. And what I think we're discovering is that that holistic approach requires really just getting into it. The mess, the conflict, the emotions, the sensations, all of the dynamics. My theory, my hope, is that by doing this as individuals, we will be more equipped to do this as a society as a whole. So in everything we're discussing, there's the internal, the interpersonal, and of course the social. Which brings me to today's topic. I just interviewed an old friend of mine, Brendan, who I know as The Rock, about his tumultuous transition into fatherhood. And so the quick plot summary would be Act 1, high performance athlete, like throwing heavy things around. Act 2, party animal without responsibility. And Act 3, father. And as you might imagine, the transition from Act 2 to Act 3 was a lot less fun than the transition from Act 1 to Act 2. But somehow this is still about conflict and growth and transformation and meaning. So the message I want to explore today, and that I always explore, and that is happening at every moment, every conversation, every episode, every decision, is that every moment has a message. So going back to conflict, that means that every moment, every conflict is teaching us something we need to know. And if there wasn't something useful about it, we wouldn't find ourselves in that conflict to begin with. So, of course, scientists out there can be like, all right, Ankh, what's the falsifiable prediction here? How do we know that that's actually true? And the experiment would be when you're fully enlightened, or whatever the word is that you use to describe, I've got nothing left to learn, then you won't experience conflict the way you and I experience conflict right now. And unfortunately, I can't test that right now because I don't have the huskies to pull that sled. But there it is. I've laid it out for you, and when you're ready, one of us can do it. So philosophically, this approach is based on a dialectical understanding of progress. It's like Hegel and Marx, but way more positive and way more personal. But what's interesting to me about it is really the pragmatism. If you're Brendan and you have to make this transition from party animal to responsible father, you can have two different attitudes about it. One, you can be like, all right, this blows. Or two, you can be like, okay, this hurts, but I'm becoming the person I want to be. Kind of like when you engage in oral surgery at the dentist. You don't really want to be there, but you know it's for a good purpose. And that the internal conflict in that moment, because nobody wants to sit in that chair, is inevitable. Gonna have issues. We're all gonna have issues. Almost every day with ourselves, our roommates, colleagues, parents, the news, imperialism, whatever. But the opportunity is to take each one of those conflicts as a teacher and explore it with curiosity. And if we do this, the times I've done this successfully, the ultimate marker of success, you guessed it, is gratitude. And there's this upwelling of gratitude for an experience that we all would have attempted to avoid. And that's how I know, like, oh, I've really milked something out of this experience. So that's one. The other thing I want to talk about is storytelling. It's an important element here. So during the Trump presidency, and this is going to be a funny connection, but stay with me, we heard a lot about alternative facts and doing their own research, and it's okay to believe whatever you want. And there's something really hilarious about that cultural moment for me, because that approach is just patently false about the external world. Most people get that. What I believe about climate change, what I think about climate change, has zero effect on what is actually happening with climate change. And I can't be correct unless I'm in alignment with objective reality. But most people who get that don't realize that the alternative facts approach is actually totally true and totally useful when it comes to ourselves. If I believe I'm lazy and ineffective, it's the opposite of the climate change thing. I will act in accordance with that belief, and I will become lazier and less effective. And if I believe that my car crash happened for a reason, and it's because God wanted me to preach the gospel of seatbelts, I'm more likely to go around preaching the gospel of seatbelts. So the story we tell about our own lives and who we are and what we're capable of is very important to ourselves and anybody else who happens to believe us. So in my coaching work, I really encourage people to imagine a coherent story of their life up to this point. The way a filmmaker would tell the story if they wanted you to look good. Because you have the same raw material. I'm going to be truthful here. We can't just make anything up. Your parents still divorced early. You still dropped out of college. You learned to weave at some point, and you got married and divorced 3 times before the age of 30. And then you went to law school, and now you're an expert on prenuptial agreements. Like, imagine that's your story. There's many ways to tell that story. You could see it as like guilt and failure, and I wrecked all these moments of my life, and I had all these opportunities, and blah, 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 blah. Or you could see it as like, wow, I'm this really resilient hero. I'm this person that like did something that only I could have done, and only I would have the motivation to focus on this bizarre prenuptial specialization because I went through so many of them badly. The main person who's affected by that story is you. How you relate to yourself today, how you relate to yourself in this moment, this very now, what dreams we allow ourselves to have for our future. It all starts in how we tell that story. One thing Matt often tells me is there's no failures, there's only learning. And I need to hear that because I keep thinking in terms of failure. But similarly, what if there are no wrong turns? What if there is just skillful and unskillful storytelling about our journey? If that's the case, then what we call purpose becomes a framework we can overlay onto our experience. It's not a divine necessity, but it's something we can arrive at empirically, looking at the data, the choices, and the results in our lives. When we look at our lives with that perspective, we can see this pattern that is unfolded. And then we can project the way we'd like the pattern to continue to unfold. Right? This pattern in the past, we see like the guidance for the pattern in the future. And all of this is somehow still about conflict, fatherhood, and of course, everything else. But primarily, I see this way of looking at our lives as a gift. It's like a decision tool. When we have a choice, we can ask ourselves, how can this choice be a part of the story I'd like to tell a few years from now? Of course, you need vision to do that. You need to have that deep belly rumbling sense of, this is what I want. This is how I want to contribute, and this is who I want to be. And then everything that happens can become part of that story. So we're new to YouTube, and we would love your feedback. Please comment, subscribe, follow, tell all your friends, and let us know what you think. Thanks. And remember, the only way out is through.